Good afternoon, everyone. Before I get started, I'll ask you guys to kind of congregate towards the front. There's also food and some water over to the side, too, for those of you that are interested. But good morning and welcome to all members of Penn State and the State College community on this special day. My name is TJ Bard, and I'll serve as your host this afternoon for the first ever Painting for Change event. I had the honor of serving as last year's Penn State Student Body President, and I am excited to be here today. Now, we are gathered here this afternoon thanks to the Council for Hope and Healing in partnership with the Borough of State College, the Center County Women's Resource Center, the 367 Project, and Happy Valley Cares. We all know that we are in the midst of a very trying time for our community, and one of the best ways to promote hope and healing is through the power of art. It is in trying times when we most seek inspiration, and this incredible backdrop of the Inspiration Mural contains many amazing stories of remarkable people from our community. We are very privileged to have the mural artist Michael Pilato here today to share with us on some of these stories. Over the next 45 minutes, we'll hear from 6 different speakers who are all working hard to positively impact our community. Then, at 1 p.m., the playing of taps will officially signify the beginning of Michael's 11th annual 48-hour vigil painting in honor and remembrance of 9/11. So you will see Michael here all day and all night until Wednesday as he works on new additions to the Inspiration Mural. To begin today's program, I am honored to introduce State College Borough Mayor Elizabeth Gorham as our first speaker. Mayor Gorham has been mayor of State College since 2010 and has been an outspoken advocate of public art. Additionally, Mayor Gorham has helped to spearhead a number of programs that promote hope and healing. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to Mayor Gorham.
It's such a pleasure to be here. We live in an incredible community. We have that has heart. We have a great, strong sense of community. We have artistic riches. And even though Michael Pilato no longer calls State College he doesn't come home here, he lives somewhere else. I mean, he and his family, and I see several members here, are really the heart of our community. We really appreciate the generosity with which they have shared their artistic talent throughout the town. The Council for Hope and Change has come out of that, and I'm looking forward to more collaborative events. I'm here today not just to help open and welcome this event, but also to introduce something that other members of our community have been involved with since about December last year, when we were just all heartbroken and really angry at the media. Excuse me, I normally love the media, but the international media that came here only looking for bad stories about us. We felt really betrayed by, nobody was interested in who we really were. And so an effort came about to reclaim who we are, and we wrote a community covenant, which is right here, and I have a blow-up of it, which was introduced to the community, the wider community, in April. And I'll just read you the first line. We are committed to a justice community where citizens and visitors of various beliefs and cultures are free to live their lives in security and tranquility with compassion and respect for others. It's relatively short, and when we're asking you to endorse it right now. You're welcome to read it, or you can go online and read it. If you have an iPhone, and I think maybe another kind of iPhone, other kind of cell phone, you can endorse it right now. It is ourcommunityday.org. You could just go online, you bring it up, and then you can endorse it. And the Penn State has endorsed it. Center County Commissioners have endorsed it. Our local municipalities have endorsed it. Women's Resource Center, United Way, and many other organizations. And we want you to endorse it also. One of my family members, my sister-in-law actually, she can say this in Spanish, but first when I heard it, I thought, I didn't feel comfortable. But the older I get, the more I realize it's the truth. And it is, namely, that out of everything good comes out of something bad, which is rather shocking when you first hear it. And yet, I have never seen our community so willing to work together, to collaborate, and to welcome the organizations and our response to the distressing events of last year, to heal our community, to move on, and to be a better community. We have several, and I think the Council for Hope and Change has come out of that feeling as well. And I welcome you to participate in any of these organizations or ad hoc committees that just want to express their positive, who we really are, our positive feelings about who we are, working together, and just keeping this a wonderful place to live and to grow up and to have kids and to enjoy. So I encourage you to go online again, ourcommunityday.org, and read it. You don't want me to hear me read it, but it's a very comforting covenant. It will allow you to feel, yes, this is where I belong, and we want you to endorse it, and if you belong to an organization that hasn't endorsed it, please present it to them or give me a call and I will come and present it. And we are asking all organizations throughout our county to sign on. And so it's sort of like our own local honor code is who we are. Thank you.
Thank you so much again, Mayor Gorham. Our next speaker graduated from Penn State in 1970. After graduation, he served as a Navy SEAL and then went on to serve in several high-ranking federal agency positions. Since 1996, he has worked as an executive in State College, and in July 2012, he was elected to the Penn State Board of Trustees. Please join me in welcoming Ryan McCombie.
Afternoon. 10 years ago today, my son flew his Navy jet off the USS Truman. He never returned. 11 years ago tomorrow, first responders rushed into the Twin Towers. Many of them never came out. We are blessed with the courage of our people. These men and women died doing something that they loved to do. They died doing something that they were very good at. And I would submit they died doing something that was worth doing. People throughout the world cite many reasons for America's greatness. Often it's our founding axiom that all men are created equal and free. Others praise our economic might or our constitutionally guaranteed civil rights. Years ago, the French were so intrigued by our greatness that they sent a writer here to ask just one question: what really is it that makes America great? The writer studied, he traveled, and he wrote a book, and he answered the question when he said, "I searched for America's greatness in her matchless Constitution. It was not there. I searched for America's greatness in her halls of Congress. It was not there. I searched for America's greatness in her rich and fertile fields and her industrial potential. It was not there. It was not," he wrote, "until I went into the heartlands of America and into her small towns and farms and villages and churches and met the American people that I discovered what makes America great. America is great," he said, "because America is good. And if America ever ceases to be good, it will cease to be great." My wife and I moved here to State College 16 years ago. It was about our 19th move. We have lived everywhere from Brazzaville, Congo, Africa, to the French Riviera. We finally settled here in central Pennsylvania. So it is with some experience that I can tell you that the people from State College in Center County are those good people who make a great place to live. You're generous with your time, with your money, you're thoughtful and caring, you're intelligent and loyal. Don't allow anyone to tell you differently. I'm proud to be a resident of Center County, and I'm proud to call you neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. McCombie. Our next speaker is the brains and talent behind the spectacular mural that serves as the focal point for today's program. A native of State College, Michael Pilato is a global community activist and teacher. He founded Penn State's animation department and in 2007 founded his own school, the Public Art Academy. In addition to painting this inspirational mural, Michael has painted a mural in Williamsport, Pennsylvania that is the largest outdoor portraiture mural in the world. For this State College Living mural, Michael works solely based on his love for our community, and he does not accept payment for modifications made to his murals. We are so very fortunate to be joined today by Michael Pilato. Please help me in welcoming him.
Hello everybody, thanks for coming today. Every year, as was mentioned before, for the last 11 years I paint for 48 hours straight on my September 11th vigil. I'm going to be working till for the next 3 days. I'm lucky this year because my daughter Sky is going to try to do it with me. What I want to do today, is, since there's not a large crowd here, is I'm going to do the tour in front of the mural. So I'm going to walk down to the mural here with all of you and give the tour, and then come back up here and talk a little bit about the world mural and give you a special message from Aung San Suu Kyi, who's the Nobel Peace Prize winner, who just got off the house arrest. She has a message for the State College and Penn State community. So we're going to all just kind of venture down here to the very beginning of the mural, and I'll start my tour. And you know, I grew up loving this community. I grew up doing murals since I was a young man. And I was doing the mural across the street over here on the deli with the artist Yuri Karabash. And we were looking at this wall and laughing, going, oh my God, I wish we could have that wall. And it was right before I was planning on leaving the community. And so the deli, different members over here, our sponsors that are written down on the board, helped us to make this a reality. One of the things that was part of it is that I had artistic freedom on the wall. And it was a thank you to everybody who's inspired me in the community while I grew up here. Since then, with the Public Art Academy, we're now proposing and planning to do murals all over the world. We've been in Norway, in Sweden, in Moldova, in Burma, and all these murals are going to connect together on the internet to make one huge mural called the World Mural. We brought 40 students from Norway here to work with kids in the State College area, which will also be part of that World Mural as well. I'm very fortunate with the 367 group at Penn State for helping organize that in many departments at Penn State. One of the things is that thousands of students walk by this mural every year, and also citizens, and they don't know the stories within the mural. So also the IT department's helping us with an app where you can come here with your iPad or your iPhone and actually hear the stories of the people, hear some of the stories of people speaking. Also, the Public Art Academy will be able to use that for the World Mural as well, which I think is really exciting. I started the mural here with my grandmother holding on to my daughter Sky, and two other women that were like grandmothers to me. And before they passed away, they used to sing a song to her, Daisy, Daisy, give me your answer true. And that's why she's holding the daisies here in the picture. I'm not going to say everybody's name on the mural, or we'll be here for quite a long time, but I'm going to give you kind of a quick overview of who it is. I am going to be here for the next 48 hours, and part of the 48 hours is talking to people and giving them tours and explanations of the mural, so you're free to come up and ask me anything you wish. The second window here is Colonel Russell and his late wife Eileen, with the Special Olympiad Abby and Inez, who does a lot of the volunteer services there. Colonel Russell was one of the founders of the Special Olympics in the area, and also the United Way's Day of Caring. He's looking across the street over here, and as we move up the mural, I'll tell you why he's looking over there. Right here is Norm Brown, and Norm Brown was in charge of the student bookstore when I did this mural, and every football game, Norm Brown would come out of this door and write a different cheer on the chalkboard, and also welcome Special Olympiads and stuff like that. The nose of the deer here my daughter did, so I kept it that way. Rudolph the white-tailed deer. There's children on the mural in green. And the children on the mural in green are teachers I had growing up giving me pictures of themselves as children. That was my English teacher, Josephine Perrone. And as a teacher and a parent myself, and as parents out there and teachers, one of the great things that we always remind our students that we were once their age. And some of the greatest teachers I had actually acted like children at times. This is our library, the Sklo Library. Like, that's Mr. Sklo. Betsy Allen there, who was the director of the library. Inez there. The first book she ever read me in the children's section is Where the Wild Things Are. And it's the first book that she read my daughter as well. These are all local artists up here at the top, like Ziggy Coyle, Bruce Shabakian, Stuart Frost, Harold Altman. There's a young woman there holding a square. Her name's Clarissa Stokes, and she drew that of her mom breastfeeding her baby brother. It got censored at the high school, so it made me kind of upset. I put it up there pretty big. Also, at one time, they censored Michelangelo's David from the waist up for male nipples, so that's my friend David up there posing as Michelangelo's David. Every September 11th, as you know, since the day of the tragedy, I do the 48-hour vigil. I was out here working with artist Yuri Karabash, who's an artist I hired to help me with this mural, on the day of September 11th when the planes hit. And I went up on my lift, and on the mast of the ship over here, you'll see an eagle, a goldfinch, a bluebird, and a chickadee. And those are the state birds from where the planes took off from. And my grandmother here, and the Native American Bob Moore, would say that when you die, your soul is lifted closer to heaven by birds. So that kind of expressed that to me. There's a little over portrait in the mural here under our previous mayor, and it's of Giuliani, the mayor of New York. And that's Mayor Bill Welsh. Giuliani that day was saying it's not the Muslims, it's not the Middle Easterns, it's the terrorists. And we were having some racial profiling issues here in town, just like all over the United States. And Yuri noticed that we didn't have any Middle Eastern flags in the wall over here. So we went up on the lift and we started painting the Middle Eastern flags on the wall. And some people, not a lot, but enough, were throwing stuff at us and shaking the lift and saying, "You're not American." So I went up and I painted rips in every flag on the building. And then painted a huge eagle's nest and put it on the front of the boat and interwove that eagle's nest with all the rips of the flag, symbolizing that the eagle flew out, ripped the flag, brought it back to its home, which is America, all the different immigrants that make this a beautiful country it is. And it was 48 hours straight worth of work. Right after that, in a Nebraska football game, 10 firefighters were honored from New York City. 4 of them got a tour of the mural. They went across the streets of the deli over here and they're like, "Yo, Mike, come on for a beer." Went over, drew a picture in a napkin real fast of a firefighter. Put 22 in the helmet and wrote a poem for the guys how I felt. A week later, Tony Martin sent me a photocopy of that back with a picture of his cousin who had died, and they were identical when he was from fire station number 22. So I painted a picture of St. Nick about this big and put all the guys who died behind it. Mind you, there are little dots in the background. But right behind St. Nick, I put his cousin and gave it to the firehouse for a Christmas present. Ever since then, I've been going up having a great time with them. But they called me up one day and invited me, and they honored me with that cross that's in the middle of the mural right there. And that's made from the steel of the Twin Towers. 80 firefighters buffed that cross for an hour a day for 80 days straight. They honored me with another one that's in the mural in Williamsport, Pennsylvania, where the last 6 years of the 48-hour vigil has taken place. So please visit Williamsport and my studio there and take a look at the heroes there. Brandon McCumbee, who you just heard from his father, is here. He's a mural within a mural. All the people above this section right here were the people that walked by and asked me who I was painting. So when the family came the next day, I gave them the drawings that said, "These are the people that honored your son on the anniversary of his death." His father, Captain Ryan J. McCumbee, wrote above the door there, "Brandon lived a short but good life. He achieved early what every great man in world history has made his life's ambition to attain, to die honored, loved, and successful, Captain Ryan J. McCumbee." And above the other door, he wrote his favorite quote, which is, "No man is dead until forgotten," by the ancient Spartans. And then above the other door, I put a heart there for all of us, for our community. Another 48 hours was Jonas Panic. Jonas is from the area, and he was killed in the Pentagon. And you can see all of his family members' handprints here and his nephew's footprint. Jonah was named after Jonah and the whale from the Bible. So you can see the rip in his shirt here, and in the whale's mouth on the mural down here is the rip in the shirt from that incident. We have Princess Nittany here. Bob Moore, who I mentioned earlier, who named Wapelani Drive here in town. And Wapelani is the Lenni Lenape word for Chief Bald Eagle, like we have Bald Eagle Valley, Bald Eagle Lake. So he's telling these young people a story like he did so often, and in the smoke here you'll see Wapelani's face. There was a great guy in town, his name was Tom Shade. On Beaver Avenue, he would wave to everybody as he drove by, so he was our local greeter. Right here we have one of the greatest fly fishermen in the world, and he's also standing right here. I'll embarrass you, Joe Humphreys. Mr. Joe Humphreys. Joe was mentored by Mr. Harvey, who I'm going to paint in his glasses. Joe started the fly fishing class here at Penn State. I've been fishing with him, and when we're on the streams, people are like this. Joe! If you follow Joe's string, it goes up into the sky. And his wife Gloria is holding it as a little girl up there, and she was a substitute teacher for over 40 years in the community, and down till we're both catching a brook trout together on the mural at the bottom of the mural down there. Under the cross is a group of people, and those are family friends. Every year since I was born, we've all gotten together for Thanksgiving dinner. So it's like kind of that family, community kind of feeling. Sometimes, you know, in some religions, the cross isn't the greatest thing. Like Barbara Martyr there has the umbrella, because in the Jewish faith, sometimes the cross isn't the greatest, so it's protecting her from that cross. Old Main, the Keystone, the World, the handprints that are up there during Arts Fest, the high school students are out here and they do chalk painting. And the Nittany Lion was up on the corner, and I called the Nittany Lion down. We went up on the lift and we screamed down to the hundreds of people out here. We said, we want to send all these kids to the Metropolitan Museum of Art in Manhattan, and it'll cost you $20, or we'll start the bidding at $20 for your handprints. Nobody said anything. I was really embarrassed. Then the lion started rubbing his ears and everybody went crazy, and we raised the money for the kids, which is great. Mama Price here, who's a great activist at Penn State for the civil rights. They call her real name is Thelma, but everybody calls her Mama, and you can see about the amount of handprints that are on here, how many people love her. She, during the blue and white game, when the students came out on the field and stopped the game, she's the one that went up to get Graham Spanier to sign the contract for them for more classes on African American history. They were having some security issues that she helped out with as well. Mr. Lederer here on University Drive, there's a park called Lederer Park. He's a Penn State Renaissance man. He's a lawyer, a sculptor, a painter, a philanthropist. He was the first art and healing that I ever did, and literally this painting changed my life forever. The day after Mr. Lederer died, a little boy was hit by a car right outside of the park. So I called his mother and said, I don't know where you go when you die, but I think Mr. Lederer and your son would have taken that walk together. I painted Andrew Freeman in front of Mr. Lederer, put love on the chalkboard, and his friends and family continue to come and paint love over and over again. It's getting thicker and thicker, and his teachers as well. Up here are local musicians. I think one of them's in the audience, Daryl Branford, somewhere, great drummer in the community. He's right there. He's much handsomer right there than he is up there. There was a great musician in town. Her name was Tanya Brown from a band called Queen Bee. Her band was going up for the Grammys. Sadly, she died of diabetes-related incident, but she was a free spirit. So she's up there. She's part of the clouds in the mural. There's people here like Tommy Warren, Mark Roth, Ernie from the First Family, Arthur Goldstein. You'll notice Jason up here still has the halo. When I took the halo off of Joe, I took the halo off of everybody on the mural, but I didn't have a ladder at that time to get up that high. What I'm going to be doing now is putting nameplates on people with the age that they were born and the age that they were deceased. The meanings of the halos on my murals were when you look at the murals and you see all the halos coming up, that you realize how short of a time that we have here on Earth, and that we, to do great things like these people in our murals, it's right now instead of tomorrow. Colonel Russell here helped with the reenactments for the first Memorial Day in Boalsburg, Pennsylvania, which is 5 minutes away from here. And this is Colonel Boal of Boalsburg. Margaret Tennis helps out with the whole festivities there. She's an amazing woman. Up here is my whole family. That's my daughter Sky there holding her hamster lovey-dovey. Her mother above me, my brothers, sisters, nieces, and nephews. My mom and dad in that middle canvas there, who have really supported all 5 children in our endeavors. 4 of us are artists, which can be pretty tough for a parent. Behind them are the Twin Towers, and the clouds come into that canvas from the background, which means time still moves in that 2-dimensional plane, and the towers represent the strength of family pretty much through anything. I mentioned before that Colonel Russell was looking across the street. He was looking at that flower bed right there, and there used to be a mural there that somebody stole. But it was him the age he was when he went into Iwo Jima. He went in with 1,200 men. On the 5th day of battle, he's got 600 men left. His good friends got tears streaming through the black sand on his face. And he goes, that's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. Colonel Russell turns to see what he's looking at, and it's the guys raising the flag on the side of Mount Suribachi. So I told him when he dies, it's going to be another glorious day because he's going to see his wife again. So I ghosted his wife in next to him, His Marines were coming up through her. They were directly across the street from these whales. And if you look in the eye of the whale, you'll see the guys raising the flag from Mount Suribachi. And these are his Special Olympiad handprints in this section. The darker handprints were another fundraiser where we raised money for boats with John Core, who's also a hero here that you're going to hear speak, to get boats and schools and stuff like that, which was great. In the boat are immigrants who came into our community. Like you'll see Helen Waskoff there in the blue and her husband Alex. They own these buildings up the street. But in World War II, when she was a little girl, she was with her sister and she was fleeing the Nazis. Bullets were flying over her head. They swam through this river. The train was leaving. They jumped on the train and she lost her sister. 12 years ago, she found her sister. And that's part of the great stories that you'll hear, and you'll actually hear her speaking when you're here with your phone or your iPad, thanks to Penn State University. Kevin Dare here, whose father actually introduced me to the McCumbee family and the story of Brandon. Kevin sadly died while pole vaulting at Penn State during an event. Kevin was Roman Catholic, so that's the first Roman Catholic halo in history ever painted. I did not remove that one because his father painted that himself with me. On Kevin's shoulder is his ferret Gizmo that his friends now have. His brother had a bet with him for $100 to see who'd win the gold medal for field and track. And his brother asked me, can you put my medal in his hand when I win it? And because of all the stories from all the kids that were coming to the mural, beautiful stories. For example, girls waiting for the bus with her crutches. The bus leaves without her. Kevin runs after the bus as fast as he can, makes it come back. I said, wherever your brother is, he's got whatever medal he needs. So I painted that there. And now my brother is going to make a medallion, and we're going to embed it into the mural there. This is where, of course, Sandusky was. And in November, right after I heard about it, I came up from the school in Williamsport, and I painted him out for a couple reasons. I got a letter on Kate Branford, who you're going to hear speaks tonight's website, going through that from people, and one of the parents, one of the victims' parents asked me to do it, and I'm not even sure if it was a letter from an actual person because I emailed it back, but it got me thinking. And the other reason is because of my daughter Sky is a survivor of sexual abuse, and she also speaks out about that. That's how I can speak about it today, and she's my biggest hero. I knew at that time I was going to put Dora McQuaid in the chair, but I wanted to wait until the trial was over. When it was over, I came out and painted her. Dora McQuaid is a Penn State graduate. She's also taught at Penn State, and for the last 14 years, she's been using her poetry and spoken word and has helped thousands of victims become survivors with that. She just got New Mexico's Woman of the Year. She has a blue ribbon in her hair, and she's going to come up and work with my daughter, and so far 15 other young people who went through that trauma. And if anybody listening today would like to be a part of that or knows somebody that would be a part of it, please let them know to come and see me. The poem that they write will be through that blue ribbon, and also when you're here with your iPhone or your iPad, you'll hear them all speaking a positive message about speaking out, and you'll find the resources that you need to get help. This is one of the jury members' handprints, and that's my daughter Sky's handprint there. The 10 angels that you see up here was the first anniversary of September 11th, my first 48 hours, and those are the 10 alumni who died from Penn State. They were all in the Twin Towers. One woman said the first thing she remembered about her husband was going into this bar. At the other side of the bar was this guy wearing the ugliest green shirt she ever saw. So she looked at her friend and said, "Look at that ugly green shirt." The man and woman looked at each other. It was love at first sight. So he's the only angel up there with the ugly green wings kind of thing. And it's, we laugh and we smile. It's these kind of things that is like the power of art. On those days are the hardest days, and if you can make somebody smile on a day they didn't think they would smile, it's a really important thing, and that's really what drives me and drives my work. The work that you're looking at is really, I have a lot to learn. The artists I'm meeting from around the world, incredible artists. One day I hope to be a lot better than I am today, but the true art is within the stories in our community, and it's the true art within these murals as well. Joe Paterno, my earliest memory of Penn State football was away games. Going fishing with my dad and listening to George Paterno and Fran Fisher on the radio. So if you follow this cord up and you look into Joe's glasses, you'll see my dad fishing on a canoe with a little radio in front of him. His other glasses is Beaver Stadium, and there's a guy holding a flag that says 324, and it was that night that I came out and painted it when he won the 324th victory. It was one of the hardest things that I did when I removed the halo on Joe Paterno. My board of directors actually, a year before, we were talking about the halos and how in some religions it was actually offensive. It kind of, I'm not sure if it was the free report and all the kind of stuff that got me thinking about it, But today, for sure, I don't think that way. But when I removed the halo, the biggest reason was that the Paterno family said that he wasn't a saint or he wasn't a demon. I also put the blue ribbon on Joe, which has gotten a lot of controversy. When I was with Joe a couple weeks before he died, he was expressing such sorrow for the young people and also for my daughter. Also, he said that he wished that there were classes to teach you what to do in situations like that. And that's the true meaning of the blue ribbon, is awareness. Right here, we have Kevin Kersavage. And Kevin Kersavage won the most medals ever at the Special Olympics. And he's going to have a blue ribbon tied around his wrist. And there's going to be a balloon that goes up to Sue Paterno up here that says the Special Olympics on it. And Sue's up there with a lot of amazing women like Linda Gall, Kathy Zangrelli, Grace Holderman, Mimi Ferris-Friedman, Pat Farrell. Here's John Cappelletti and his little brother Joey. If you haven't heard the speech, definitely Google it. It's one of the greatest speeches of all time when he dedicated the Heisman Trophy to his little brother Joey, who was dying of leukemia. Adam Talaferro, who also became a Board of Trustee member, who taught us all what willpower is. Christy McConnell, who's a great basketball player, or was at Penn State, now coach. Christy Woodruff down here was a Big Ten swimming champ. The lion here, the mountain lion in the Native American faith represents strength, courage, dignity, and leadership. And I put the blue ribbon around the lion's neck to represent that that's exactly what it took those young men to come out and speak against their oppressor. These young people down here are more teachers I had growing up, except for the second kid there was that age. That's Alex Gonzalez. And he taught me literally everything I know about dinosaurs. He's like one of those kids, like a pterodactyl has a wingspan of 40.67. One of the things that came out of this tragedy that really upset me, and I'm sure upset a lot of you, is about 80% of the national news and 60% of the international news, and still today, I'm reading it and seeing it, said that Jerry Sandusky destroyed these kids' lives forever. That is so far from the truth. My board of directors, my daughter, myself, we found over 400 people from around the world, like Winston Churchill, Oprah Winfrey, Maya Angelou, people that were sexually abused that actually made the world an incredibly better place. So we're proposing, through our group, to do an amphitheater at Beaver Stadium, next to Beaver Stadium, and on that amphitheater, paint those people. When you're in front of them, you'll hear their stories, how they came out of it. It'll be a place of activism. Also painted there will be all the activism through the history of Penn State University and to come. The Penn State students will be helping us with that. The art students, the fine art students, the communication students, they will come together, take this simple vision, and expand upon it. Also through Kate's group, which works with young children, we want to also work with prevention. And one of the greatest things on prevention is our own feelings, to teach children what feelings are, like happiness, sadness, courage, saying no. So we want to put around the bottom of that a children's story that a student will make with different creatures from our environment and on their faces with different facial expressions. So when the parents and the students and the young men and women are there looking at the more adult nature on that mural, the young people can walk around and learn as well about their own individuality. So I want to thank all of you for coming out today. It's really heartening to me. And again, if you have any questions or if you don't like some of the things I did, please come to me and ask me and talk to me about it. I'm sure since all of you are here that you wouldn't come with hate, but I've got quite a bit of that lately. I can handle it. I'm getting a pretty tough skin. But again, God bless you. And Happy Valley is really all about love. The State College community and the Penn State community. So thank you very much.
She started the organization Happy Valley Cares in November of 2011 and serves as executive director. Please join me in welcoming Kate Branford to the stage.
Thank you all for coming. It's great to see you all here on this lovely day in Happy Valley. And as TJ said, my name is Kate Branford, and I am the Executive Director with Happy Valley Cares. Happy Valley Cares is an organization that my friend Molly Countermine and I started last November. we decided, we got together and we were reading and hearing all about the incidents that had come to light and how we couldn't believe that that happened in our community. And we were outraged, and we decided we were going to do something about it, not just read about it or hear about it. And so we started Happy Valley Cares, because we felt this isn't what Happy Valley is about, because Happy Valley does care. We care, and we wanted to show that. And we wanted the victims and survivors of child sexual abuse to know that we care. So we started Happy Valley Cares, and we have held fundraisers and raised funds, and with the help of the Women's Resource Center, we have a fund set up now so that victims, including victims of Sandusky and other adult survivors of child sexual abuse, have direct funds that they can use, because when you suffer trauma in your life, there are days that are difficult. There are times that are difficult. And so we have set up a fund so when those difficult times hit, we can do a part to help as much as we can by setting up the fund. Maybe 1 month we can help pay rent. 1 month we can help pay a phone bill so they can stay in touch with their support group. We could help pay for a taxi cab to a counseling appointment, or we could help pay for the counseling appointment. Whatever it is that is needed, we will be able to help with the direct fund set up with the wonderful Women's Resource Center, which is a fantastic place. And we thank them very much for that. And I have joined the Council for Hope and Healing because they have been working along those lines also. We have decided that hope and healing is something that we in Happy Valley need. And so the Council is working through art to provide healing. And in doing that, we're going to promote prevention education to promote awareness, because that's where it all starts, because that's what Happy Valley is about. Like I said, Happy Valley Cares. If you look around at the community, it's Penn State, it's State College, it's all of you, it's moms, it's dads, it's teachers, it's business people, it's everybody. And that is truly who we are, and we are truly a fantastic place, and we want to show that because we have a window of opportunity right now that we can promote awareness, we can provide prevention education, and people want to hear about it right now. So we need to take that window and work with it, because everybody is listening and watching, not just Happy Valley, Penn State, but the nation too right now is listening, and we have an opportunity, and we really need to do something with it, and that is what the Council for Hope and Healing is doing, and I'm proud to say that Happy Valley Cares is helping out with that. So thank you all for being here. Thank you, Mike Pilato, for your amazing work and bringing art to such a wonderful place where it helps people with healing and our community with healing. Thank you, and thank you all for being here.
Can't wait to meet you.
Thank you so much, Kate, and thank you for all you do. Before we move on, I want to read a quote really quick that Michael forgot to read. It's from Nobel Peace Prize winner Aung San Suu Kyi. I don't know if I got that right, but T. All right. So he wrote a quote about the situation here at Penn State. "I'm sorry to not be here with you today, but on behalf of Aung San Suu Kyi World Freedom Fund, I would like to share with you a quote from the president of our fund, Aung San Suu Kyi. If we think we are civilized human beings, if we claim to be civilized or dignified human beings, we must all stand up for the women and children all over the world who have been misused or suppressed. Real power is something that comes from within, not from bombs, jets, armies, or from any form of violence. Real power comes from within. For you to be empowered from within, you need to believe in your own dignity as a human being. If you have not upheld that dignity, you will not have a clear conscience that will enable you to feel empowered. The basic connection between dignity and empowerment is the human connection. Are you a dignified human being? Have you lived up to your human dignity? If you feel you have, you will naturally feel strong because you are confident with what you have done and what you stand for. And that empowers you. That is why abusers never can be strong. They have not allowed themselves to be dignified and empowered. To all survivors of sexual abuse or suppressed, I would like to say, stay strong, stay dignified, and stay empowered. You survive, and you are strong. Know that you have the power inside to make great changes in your society for the better. Know that your power and your dignity will make the society better. I would like to send my encouragement to the students and staff at Penn State University. It is so important to bring awareness to this cause that affects us all. Sexual violence is a hard fact that is not an easy subject to tackle. What happened at Penn State sadly happens many places. Sexual violence is also being used as a weapon in armed conflicts. So, if we think we are civilized human beings, if we claim to be civilized or dignified human beings, we must all stand up for the women and children all over the world who have been misused or suppressed. Thank you. So another organization within our community that works with survivors is the Center County Women's Resource Center. Our next speaker, Amy Rumble, has been with the Women's Resource Center for 15 years. First as the prevention educator, then as shelter counselor, and presently as the coordinator and facilitator of support groups for adult survivors of sexual abuse. Amy lives locally in Lamont and is a graduate of Penn State. Please help me in welcoming Amy Rumble.
Hi, thank you. I'm happy to be here today. I'm happy to be here on behalf of the Women's Resource Center. We're an organization here in State College, a couple blocks away, that serves not just women, but also men and children. And we serve victims of violence, in particular sexual and domestic violence. So there's two programs that I'd like to mention that we have started and are continuing throughout the next year or two at the Women's Resource Center. The first one is prevention, and a prevention education program, and it's called the Stewards of Children. This is a 2.5-hour free program for anybody in the community. It's for adults, and it's to learn how to protect our children, to learn how to prevent child abuse, and to learn what to do. Just as Michael was talking, Joe Paterno said, we need classes on what to do if this is happening or if we hear about this. And this training is specific to that. What to do if you know about a child being abused, and what to do if you even suspect that your neighbor or someone in your community is being abused. So it's a 2.5-hour free training. I have pamphlets that I'm happy to hand out if anybody's interested in who to call and how to get a facilitator to your group or to your company or to your class or whatnot to hear more about that training. The second thing I want to talk about is more of a service that we are now offering or providing in terms of healing for abused adult survivors of child abuse. And that is that we're starting some new support groups. So we'll have a support group for female adult survivors. We're going to start a support group for male adult survivors, which hasn't happened in this community in a long time, where men can get together and talk about what their experience was and heal from that. And we're also going to start a support group for family and friends of someone who was abused, because almost everybody in this community knows of people who were abused. And how do you help that person that was abused? So we'll have a support group that's starting this fall for family and friends to get more skills, get more education on how they can help their loved one who was abused. So these are two of our programs that we're really promoting right now, and they're really answering questions people have in our community as to how can I be more diligent, how can I be more aware of child abuse, and again, that's the Stewards of Children training, and also how can I heal from what happened to me, or how can I help my loved one heal? And those are the support groups. So I have handouts. I'll be right over here if anybody's interested in learning more about either of those programs. Also, we've had a lot of questions at the Women's Resource Center about what you can do to help us and help groups like Kate's. So we have our website, and we have all sorts of ideas on how you can help us in Kate's group, and she talked a little bit about that as well. And we also have a 5K coming up, October 14th, Steps for Safety. So come out and join us. You don't have to run, you can walk that and support the center in that way as well. Thank you.
Thank you again, Amy. The work being done by all the individuals we heard from today is nothing short of remarkable. The passion that each of you have for this community is evident in all that you do. I sincerely encourage every person who is here with us today to get involved in these initiatives that will help promote hope and healing within our community. You've heard many initiatives that can benefit from your passion and your involvement. Personally, I second Mayor Gorham's recommendation that you all sign our community covenant. And if you're a student here today, I recommend joining the 367 Project, which will be working directly with the council all year and is responsible for organizing the event today. Now, on to our final speaker. They have been a State College resident for 37 years. He currently works as a sales consultant for Southern Wines of Pennsylvania. And if you're ever interested in really learning how to choose wine and how to do all the proper swooshing maneuvers, then he's your man. In addition to his job, John A. Core is a serial volunteer. He spent 10 days working at Ground Zero immediately after the 9/11 attacks, and has also since volunteered in Sri Lanka after the tragic 2004 earthquake and tsunami, and in New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina. Here to share with us his perspective on the aftermath of 9/11 is John Core.
Thank you. Thanks for coming. Keep calm and fight on is something I think that not only relates to our situation in State College here, but also in Ground Zero. It was my privilege to work at Ground Zero from September 14th, 3 days after the big day, until September 23rd, Sunday. 10 days which I'll never forget. But before I go there, I probably should tell you how Mike would ask me to speak to you. About 6 months after I got back from Ground Zero, I was in the street, and this interesting character came up to me, introduced himself, and expressed that he had heard that I went up to Ground Zero to work, and thanked me for it. So we talked a little bit, and I didn't think much of it. And then later, that Christmas, I think it was about 15 months, the second Christmas after Ground Zero, or 9/11, I decided to buy a print of this mural and give it to my wife for Christmas. So I tracked Mike down, and he was at his place over in Bollesburg. It was a snowy night in December. It just got dark, kind of a magical night. And I knocked at the door, and as I walked in, there was Mike with two paintings in front of him, actually working on both at the same time. One was for Joanne Teasy, who was a local woman who died at the towers, and the other was for a fellow named Thomas Kasuria. And Mike was making a Christmas painting for his mother. Thomas Kasuria was a fireman that died up in New York too, and he was the cousin of a fellow Tony Martin, who and Tony Martin was supposed to speak here today, wasn't he not, Mike? Yeah. Tony Martin's a New York firefighter who at the time is not feeling very well. He's pretty sick with Ground Zero syndrome. But that was very typical of Mike. Pulling an all-nighter, trying to finish two paintings for two different people that were suffering for free. So at the time I told him, I said, well, you know, I'm going to go up to Ground Zero myself in a couple days. This was right around Christmas, for a memorial Christmas service with some of the people that I worked with. And he said, well, geez, I need a ride up there to bring this painting to Thomas Kasuria's mother. And the painting was St. Nicholas. I don't know if any of you remember, it was in the Center Daily Times. St. Nicholas leading all of the firemen home, all those 350 firemen who perished, with Thomas Kasuria in the lead. A very, very inspiring, nice painting. So he said, sure, that would be great. And I said, why don't you come with me? We went up to New York, and we've been friends ever since. And every vigil that Mike does, I think I've made every one except one. I missed the one last year. And if Mike does a vigil also, or has been doing a vigil up at his mural in Williamsport, and that mural is really something to see. If you haven't ever taken a trip up there to see it, I recommend you do. And Russ Kimura here was Mike's mentor. This fellow right here. Why don't you raise your hand there, right? For the mural in Williamsport. Once I get started talking about Ground Zero, I could probably talk for 3 hours, but they've given me 10 minutes, and I think I've already used up about 3 minutes. So my daughter Rose tells me, Dad, you really should, she told me, you really should start a blog or something and write everything down, and I did. And I have the blog address in case anybody really wants to have an insight of what I saw and what was going on inside Ground Zero. So how did I volunteer? Like the rest of you, I was watching television. I was very affected by it. I gave blood locally. And one afternoon, I think it was Thursday, 2 days after the event, CNN brought a couple young guys on and said, we're going to interview a couple volunteers. And they came on, they were just a couple young kids. They were filthy dirty. They looked terrified and exhausted. And then after that, they kind of panned to some firemen out in the street, you know, at a long distance because you couldn't get into Ground Zero. Long distance camera and firemen, you know, filing out of Ground Zero. And I realized that these guys are exhausted too. And this was after about 72 hours. And I thought, maybe I'll take a ride down there and see if I can help. I talked about it with my wife, and off I went. I packed some things and went down. And I was fortunate enough to get in and to find purpose. And the next 10 days I was off and running. When I first got there, I worked at with the Red Cross. We set up a feeding station. And people needed so much at Ground Zero that they would come to us and ask us for just about everything. And I have a list of things that I'll read off to you of what we were doing to supply these people. On one such foray out into what they call a pile, and the pile was kind of that smoking hulk at Ground Zero, I ran into a supply depot run by a guy named Richard Ford. Richard was a retired fireman from Houston who, when Ground Zero happened, he tried to get out on a plane to come right to New York. He couldn't, so he jumped on a bus and took a 3-day bus trip to New York City, went up to the first firehouse and offered his services, and he ended up running a supply depot there. Well, I was back at the Red Cross headquarters, and I found a couple things which I thought they could use at this supply depot. And when I went and exhausted, Richard gave me a list of things he needed. And at the top of the list was water. And I remember saying to him, water? We're 2 blocks away, and we have water piled up to the 2nd floor. But Ground Zero was the kind of place they had different security levels and barriers. And water wasn't getting to them. And we were too busy to bring it to them, or we couldn't get through the security, and they were too busy to come out. So we spent the next 8 hours running water with our little ATVs till about 4 in the morning. And then after that, Richard was exhausted. He asked me to run the supply depot, and for the next week, we ran the supply depot. So what did these guys need, and why was there a need for somebody like me to be there? The regular chain of command and the regular channels to get all of these things was really destroyed. The Department of Sanitation was to clean up a building if it collapsed in New York. Well, this was way beyond that. In fact, in the very first days, when firemen needed things, they would go to the regular channels and they'd say, well, we'll try to get that for you tomorrow morning. And they would say, well, that's not good enough. And what they would do is they would then walk to the river, and the Hudson River from Ground Zero was, well, maybe from here to the hub. And on the Hudson, there would be boats lined up from individual citizens from New Jersey who would say, what do you need? Okay, we need metal cutting blades. We can't get them till tomorrow morning. We'll go across the river, we'll get them, we'll be back in an hour. So that's the kind of place Ground Zero was. The kind of things that we would supply people with, all these firemen: metal cutting saw blades, portable generators, tool chargers, rebar cutting tools, fuel cans, generators, truckloads of hard hats that we had to assemble, AAA batteries, duct tape, because they wanted to duct tape the flashlights to their helmets so they could work at night, because it was a 24-hour rescue operation. Ground Zero was a place of contrast. It was a horror show, but it was a place of great hope. There was great chaos, but there was also great cooperation that got better every day. It was a place of despair and devastation, but it was also a place of determination. Let me try to describe to you what it was like at Ground Zero. When you first got in, there was a fence all around a 2-block area. So from where I'm standing, maybe up to Beaver Avenue, was what they called the pile. But there was a fence here that the National Guard had put up. And then just like if you look at the streets now, we have these different barriers. A few more barriers down, then you would get into what was called the pile. And then once you were into there, was really the heart of Ground Zero. And Ground Zero was really just like a smoking hulk of a volcano. I always say it was like pickup sticks. You remember the game of pickup sticks you played when you were a kid? But this was all, you know, a gigantic game of hot pickup sticks that were girders. The tower number 1 had fallen on this side, and tower number 2 had fallen here, and in the middle was kind of a crater. And when I first got there, the firemen and iron workers were crawling all over this hill, looking for people in a pretty frantic effort to find people. The horrible things that were being found would shake the toughest of characters. I remember a truck driver that came in, and he was the kind of guy that if you were in a tavern, you would give him your bar stool pretty quick, you know, if he just kind of glanced at you. And he was very macho. And he went over where they were digging, excuse me, and they had these grabbers, which were kind of hydraulic units that were pulling the girders out. And they found some vehicle, and they were pulling at the vehicle, and they ripped the top off, and it was kind of a horrific scene. And he came in visibly shaken, and completely, you know, changed his countenance. And that was the kind of thing that was going on every minute of every day, the whole time I was there, that could kind of sap your strength. But at the same time, you would hear different stories about amazing people. For instance, a fellow named Patty Brown. I don't know if you ever heard of Patty Brown. Patty Brown was a New York fireman who reported to the scene, and some of his squad didn't want to go into tower number 2. Tower number 2, although it was hit second, was the first one to fall. Patty went in with his squad, worked their way all the way up to right below where the planes had hit, and was dealing with a lot of very, very hurt people, people that were in really bad shape, when he got the call on the radio to abandon the building. And his response was, I refuse that order. So he wouldn't, what he was really saying was, I have people that I'm not leaving. He could have said, I'm going to take you and we'll go down and we'll be back for the rest of you. But he didn't. And Patty was just one of many, many, many people like that at Ground Zero. So from guys like Patty, and from all the Red Cross workers, from the amazing Salvation Army workers, from the restaurateurs who would show up with amazing food and be handing it over the fence or demanding that firemen would sit down with them and sharing it, and all the different citizen volunteers, you would get hope. So out of this horror show, there was hope. I mentioned chaos. What was it like? Inside Ground Zero, regardless of what Mayor Giuliani had said, he said that we have it under control, don't bother showing up, which delayed me for a couple days. Once you got in, it was very, very chaotic. The noise level was unbelievable. Their firemen had never left. They were very exhausted, but you know, pushing on. There was a cast of thousands coming and going, bucket brigades working in every quarter of the place. Yet, throughout all this chaos, there was such great camaraderie that every day it was ratcheted down a little more. And in the end, you know, people solved that chaotic problem. It was kind of a leader get out of the way mentality, and we're all in this together. So that helped. As far as despair, there was a lot of that, but you know, funny, there was no anger at Ground Zero. The despair that I would feel, and a lot of it was because people were working 24/7. We would work basically till we dropped, and we'd get up, we'd drink a lot of coffee, and after 10 days of that, you can get kind of loopy. But what really hit me one day was we were working at the supply depot, and the supply depot was just maybe from curb to curb. We had a couple tents, and you know, all the different things that I had just read that the firemen needed, and much, much more. But one day they came and they said, we're having a little memorial service, you know, down the way a little bit towards the Hudson, out of the pile zone in a more, you know, cleaner area, and it's for the 350 firemen that perished. We need your tents. So we picked up the tents and we went over. And when I got there, after we set up the tents, when I was looking at all of the pictures of all the firemen and realized that all these guys were somebody's husband or somebody's brother or somebody's father, and if you see 10, that's one thing. If you see 30, that's one thing. If you see 50, but when you see 350, that was pretty heavy. Visitors would come in. We worked right near a portal, a gate that came into Ground Zero. Constantly, as you were trying to do your work, with hundreds of people coming up to you every hour, every half hour, needing this, needing that, trying to satisfy everyone's needs, there would be people that would come in that were being brought in who had lost loved ones. And to see their emotion was very difficult. And you know, that would kind of wear on you. One day, in particular, I looked up, I was helping somebody get something. I don't know what he needed. He needed a saw blade or he needed a battery for it. And there was a fireman that came in with no hat, no helmet. And they all had helmets. Everybody had helmets. We had to have helmets on all the time. And a fireman without a helmet, it was kind of, when I saw him come in, I figured, this is trouble. And he came in and I just said, excuse me. I went over to him and I asked him what he needed. And he looked at me and he said, do you have any Bibles? And it just so happened that about maybe 2 hours before, somebody had come up to me with a box and said, I don't know what to do with this. It was a young girl that worked for OSHA. And I opened the box and it was Bibles. And they were wet. So I had put them out and I was drying them in the sun. And I brought the fireman over and you know, I gave him the Bible and he kind of looked at me straight in the eye and said, thank you. He was very visibly shaken. Who knows what he had been through. And I remember I went over to go back to the person I was helping. I turned around a little bit to see how he was doing and he was gone. Just walked off into this smoking volcano and I never saw him again. That was the kind of place that Ground Zero was. And those kind of things you could feel the despair among everybody. But then you'd meet somebody else. I met a fellow named Tommy Burke. Tommy Burke strode in. He looked like Cale Sanderson, kind of that kind of jaw. Cale Sanderson's the wrestling coach up here. But he had his helmet, and he came in kind of holding his hands like this, and he said, "I need to wash my hands. Can you help me?" And I said, "Well, sure. We have some water over here." I think we had run out of water, so we bent down and we turned the drain on this big cooler that we had filled with ice and water that we put our Gatorade in and our water. And I squirted him down with the soap, and he was under there rinsing his hands. And he started to tell me, he says, "You see that Marriott building right there?" And the Marriott was maybe from here to Chipotle's right there. He says, "We were just in there, and the Tower 2 had fallen onto the Marriott and knocked it from about 35 or 40 stories down to about 7. And he said, we were up there searching it, for victims or for maybe survivors, and there was a fireman up there, in there, and we were trying to get him out in all the mess, and we couldn't. And right in the middle of this effort, we got the call on the radio, get out of there, it's not safe." So he came down, and very matter of fact, he was telling me this, and I'm thinking, that's pretty heavy, that's pretty amazing. And he jumps up, he looks at me, he says, thanks for your help. Where are you from?" I told him. He says, "Well, I'm Tommy Burke." And he just strode off right back into the whole scene, and I never saw him again. But that was the kind of people that, with their determination, that would kind of lift you out of your despair and get you to keep moving on. All of these tireless firemen. One thing, since you're probably all have been to a football game, you notice when the football team comes through the tunnel, people get really excited. One thing that would lift everybody's spirits is when the firemen were coming and going, the citizenry at the gates where they entered and left would shout encouragement, and in such a visceral way that you really had to be there to believe it, and it would uplift everybody's spirit to keep you moving on. So, hook, am I getting the hook here? Okay. So how does Ground Zero relate to today? This is the things I was asking myself the other day when Mike asked me to speak. What are the lessons learned? Are there parallels to our situation in State College? Well, the lesson I brought home from Ground Zero that I think relates to our situation here in State College was that humanity shines through, or something that Elizabeth Gorham had said early, something about what comes out of good always comes out of bad. I know when I was a kid and growing up in Philadelphia, you know, the reputation for people in New York was that they were pretty cold and hard. The joke was if you're in New York and you fell down of a heart attack, they would step right over you. And I think the New Yorkers almost reveled in that reputation. But I can tell you that this experience for New Yorkers really changed them for the better. When I first got there, the first night I was there, I was up at 66 in Amsterdam, sleeping at the Red Cross headquarters, and I looked out the window, and right across the street was a firehouse. And there was a crowd gathering in front of that firehouse. So I went out and I decided I didn't want to go to sleep yet, and I went out and joined that crowd. And the way these New Yorkers were relating to each other, the love that they had for each other, people from every walk of life, from every part of the city, just reaching out and holding each other and trying to relate to each other as New Yorkers in their time of tragedy. Taxi cab drivers would have a heart-to-heart conversation with you. I was picked up one time by a Muslim taxi driver and who poured his soul out to me, and he was very upset. He was a New Yorker himself. The boxes of cookies and cards that would come in from the kids from all over the area, from all over the country, encouraging the firemen, and their little drawings, which are humorous but also very poignant. When I was leaving Ground Zero, I was pretty upset. I was pretty down, and as I was kind of coming north to Canal Street, 10 blocks out of the pile, I was pretty, I guess I had a helmet on maybe still, and some dirty clothes and dirty boots, and I was looking for the subway station, and I saw two policemen there, and I went up to them and I said, it was a man and a woman, can you give me directions to the local subway station? And they said, where are you going, where are you from, yada yada, and they got my information, and the policeman just went, you know, he called a cab over, and the cab pulled up and he says, here's a voucher, take this guy where he wants to go. Because I had to go up to uptown, way uptown. And the cab driver said, sure, jump in. So when I jumped in, I put the window down and I said, thanks a lot, I appreciate that. And the female police officer, I remember, a very attractive Hispanic woman with a gun on her waist, she leaned in and said, no, thank you. So when would you think that New Yorkers would be stopping each other in the street and having a heart-to-heart, or that a cabbie would want to talk to you? Okay, I went back a year later for the first memorial with Richard Ford, this Texan that I had worked with, and he had a little Houston Fire Company t-shirt on, and we were struggling with the meter out on the street, uptown, on 93rd Street, and a couple of the merchants must have seen his t-shirt, and they came out and quizzed us on who we were, and then they started taking change out and putting the meter, and they said, you go ahead, do what you want, we'll feed the meter all day. When would that happen? Pre-9/11 in New York. So New York City was kicked in the guts. State College was kicked in the guts. You know, how will we respond? You know, will this tragedy change our community for the better? Will we emerge from this chaos with stronger leadership and a new camaraderie among the citizens, among Penn State students? Will we overcome our devastation and despair and lead a determined effort at healing and rebuilding our community? I'm optimistic. I think we will. Thanks very much.
Thank you so much, Sean. Thank you for sharing your stories and all of your service and continued service to our community. It's truly amazing, some of the experiences you had, and thank you again for sharing those with us today. We are so much stronger now, having faced adversity as a community. and I know that I remain personally committed to making this community as strong as possible. We, as a community, have every opportunity in front of us right now to make a difference. Everyone here has the power to change someone's life for the better. Every moment is a chance to give back and be part of something bigger than ourselves. We can change lives now more than ever before. I hope that all of you get inspired by these phenomenal individuals you've heard from today and stand up to make a change. I thank you again to all of our speakers for taking the time to share your stories with us this afternoon. We wish Michael well as he embarks upon his vigil of painting for the next 48 hours. You are welcome to stop by and bring your friends anytime over the next 2 days. I'm sure he would be happy to have the visitors. A moment of silence, followed by the playing of taps by the Blue Band trumpeter, Joe Giordoriano, sorry about that, will formally conclude our program and formally begin the vigil. Thank you for all of your participation this afternoon. Now, please join me in a moment of silence for all of the victims of the 9/11 terrorist attacks.